A few weeks ago, I was home. It was game night with my family, my 4 kids and my wife. And I was interrupted by a call. It was a Hoboken business owner I've known for years. She's exhausted. Her rent's going up again. Her sales are down. And she said to me, "Michael, I love Hoboken, but I don't know how much longer I could hold on." And that hit me hard because I've lived it. I've signed that lease. I've unlocked my doors in the morning, and I've worried about making payroll that night. I'm the only candidate here who's owned a brick and mortar business in Hoboken, and I know how tough it could be. That's one of the reasons why I'm running for mayor, because her story is Hoboken's story. Families are paying more than $6,000 a month to live here, which leaves little for supporting small businesses and restaurants. Visitors circle the block 5 or 6 times looking for parking, and eventually they give up and they go over to Jersey City. Parents worry about the reckless e-bike drivers. Business owners are worried about the continued rat infestation. And too often, City Hall makes it harder, not easier to succeed. We can do better. As mayor, I'll expand workforce housing so our employees have the ability to live where they work. I'll create new parking throughout our city and preserve the parking we have. I'll reinvent the hop and fix the traffic nightmare we all experience daily. Hoboken is my blood. I know its challenges. I will deliver results, and as mayor, I'll fight for our families and our businesses with the same passion I fight for my own kids.
Time is up.
Perfect.
Thank you, Ruben.
Yep. Good evening, Hoboken, and thank you to Hoboken Hudson County Chamber of Commerce and Hoboken Grace for sponsoring this event and giving us an opportunity to share our vision for our community and its future. My name is Ruben Ramos, and I spent my entire life in this city. I'm a father, a public school teacher, a cancer survivor, and I've served you in City Hall and the State Assembly. I've seen the city grow and change over the years, so I know our strengths and I know our challenges. I'm running for mayor to get our city and our platform back to basics, because I believe we need to keep our local government focused on what matters most. That means taking care of the fundamental needs of our community: public safety, quality of life, and programs that support our families and seniors and our small businesses. It means a city government that is transparent, accountable, fiscally responsible, and too often over the last 10 years, that just hasn't been the case, unfortunately. We face real challenges from the horrific traffic caused by poor coordination by our city, road infrastructure woes, and the rising cost of living that is pushing our families out of Hoboken. So municipal budget that increased property taxes way beyond its means and necessary. To solve these problems, we need a mayor with both experience, the focus to get the job done, as well as the ability to be egoless and find common ground and bring people together. Hoboken's potential is limitless, but to get there, we need to get back to basics and build a city that works for all of us. I know that myself and my teammates, Laura Miani, Britta Owano, and Alfredo Velosi are the candidates who can help us get the job done for all of you. Thank you very much.
Emily.
Good evening. My name is Emily Jabbour. I have lived in Hoboken for 17 years, and I have 2 daughters. My professional background is in social welfare policy, and I have proudly served the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for nearly 19 years. I first got involved locally when my daughters were young. I founded the Hudson County chapter of Moms Demand Action after being part of an active shooter drill at my daughter's pre-K program. I was asked to run for city council by Mayor Dawn Zimmer, the first woman to be mayor of Hoboken, and against all better judgment and logic, I eventually said yes. Not only did I want the opportunity to address gun violence on a larger level, but I also wanted to address things that mattered to me as I was pushing a stroller around the city. I wanted to address pedestrian safety, open spaces, support our small business community, keep Hoboken a desirable place to live, work, and play. because a thriving business community is the heart of Hoboken. Having been on the City Council for the past 8 years, I now understand how the city works well. I've been able to prove a track record of how to be effective. Working together during COVID in particular was like a masterclass in how government could work together in a common shared goal. As mayor, I am excited to have the opportunity to address a new set of priorities that reflect moving Hoboken forward into 2026 and beyond. A strong public safety workforce, safer streets, reliable infrastructure, and a responsive City Hall.
30 seconds.
Thank you to Hudson County Chamber of Commerce and HUDCO Post for hosting us tonight, and to Hoboken Grace for hosting us in your space this evening. I look forward to the discussions.
Tiffanie.
Sorry. Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffanie Fisher. I want to thank the Hudson County Chamber of Commerce, HUD-Post, for hosting this tonight. I think it's an amazing forum to speak directly to our businesses, although I know some residents are here. I've lived in Hoboken for 31 years. I've been on the City Council for the last 10 years, and I'm running to be what I call a different kind of mayor, one that brings private sector experience to City Hall. And when I mean private sector experience, my professional background is 23 years working on the finance side of commercial real estate. So a lot of directly relevant skills for what we're facing and addressing the city today. When I first was on the City Council, about a year in, we were planning for the Washington Street redesign, and we realized that it was going to be completely disruptive to our local businesses. So I immediately pushed to make sure that businesses had a seat at the table or were being considered as we were about to rip up our main street. Unfortunately, that isn't what happened. It was a poorly managed project. It ended up putting a number of businesses out of business, and it ended up reducing sales for a number of our businesses as well. What I took away from that is we realized we didn't have any kind of economic or business advocacy locally, so I reached out to a number of business owners. I spoke at length with Greg
30
Delaquila,
seconds.
and together we came together and we formed the Hoboken Business Alliance. I have always focused on making sure that we are thoughtful about our residents, our businesses, and combined our entire community.
15 seconds.
So as your mayor, I will continue to prioritize our local economy and our businesses. Thank you.
Thanks. Patricia.
Hi, the one you all been waiting for. My name is Patricia Waiters, and what a miracle I'm not rampant and raving today. You know why? 30 years of going to every council meeting, every zoning meeting, every planning board meeting to protect my community. I will advocate for everyone and anyone. I have a few business owners too, and you know who you guys are, that I fought tooth and nail only to have your business open and closed down within 30 days, okay? I got sick and tired of walking down Washington Street and not seeing no business with people that look like me. I know it's not fair. I don't want to live the same Hoboken history from back in the 60s. I'm born and raised in Hoboken since 1962. I'm the proud product and the niece of my uncle David Little, which was a superhero to all, a legendary hero that was never mentioned. I tried to share it with the city council. They would never mention it. But for the people in Marine View to share that with me when I knocked on doors, thank you, thank you, thank you. His name will never be forgotten. That inspired me to work even harder. And my opponents tonight is telling you what they could have done, should have done, would have done. They all sat on the council, most of them for 2 decades, and we're in the mess that we're in tonight. So I want you to sit back, wake up, and get ready for this debate, and then on November the 4th, you make the decision. Because they had an opportunity to change Hoboken from parking and all the same issues that we facing, especially the fact that we are key away of getting locked out and losing our place. Thank you.
Thank you. Dini.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to start by acknowledging what just transpired in Utah. A shooter killed a 31-year-old. I'm not sure what ideology drove this shooter, but I know there is a set of parents out there whose life will never be the same. Discourse matters. Discourse at our council matters. Discourse with the mayor matters. I'm running because I want to give Hoboken a real reset, an alternative. a fresh start. I'm running because I cannot sit on the sidelines while Hoboken repeats its history of financial mismanagement and backroom deals. We know how we got here. We know we got here because we spent. And when we spend so much, what ends up happening is our taxes rise, or if you don't raise the taxes, then the services decline. We can see our crumbling roads, we can see our water mains break, we can see our parks neglected, we can see our waterfront broken. That has to change. It doesn't have to be this way. I can do that. I can do that because I have real experience. I have real experience in running large organizations. I have real experience in running large budgets. As Assistant Treasurer for the state of New Jersey, I helped New Jersey come back from the brink. I helped New Jersey get several upgrades from credit rating agencies. I have done it. I can do it again.
30 seconds.
My husband and I, we love this city. We probably will live the rest of our life in this city. This is personal to us. More of the same will only give you more of the same. I'm offering an alternative, a fresh start.
15 seconds.
Thank you.
All right, our first question of the day will go to Ruben Ramos. Hoboken is ranked by Bonus Finder as number 3 for best city to party. While it is an entertainment capital, it is also home to newcomers, lifelong residents, and commuters. Who is Hoboken for, and how do you balance the needs of those sometimes competing constituencies?
Well, I think outreach is number one thing, educating all of our residents and people visiting our city on the level of expectation that we expect in behavior. I think talking to our small businesses that thrive on the nightlife industry and what a level of behavior we expect from them, working with our police department and public safety division to make sure that certain behaviors are not going to be tolerated in our city. I think for a long time, enforcement has been an issue with a lot of various elements not being enforced or things just being ignored. We want to make sure that the nightlife doesn't hinder all Hoboken residents' quality of life. So when Hoboken residents shouldn't be impacted by what's happening in the nightlife, when visitors are visiting Hoboken, we want them to enjoy Hoboken. Our businesses need people from out of town to enjoy our city. Listen, I'd be lying if I'd be saying I wasn't one of those people enjoying our nightlife when I was younger, right? But we also try and enjoy that balance, but we don't want to see people breaking bottles as they're walking home. We want them to make sure they enjoyed their life, but respecting Hoboken residents. That comes with the tone that we set and talking to our businesses for their expectations. And then we want to make sure that we have businesses in town that also
15 seconds.
cater to our families and our young families in the city of Hoboken. I think the Hoboken Beer Garden was a prime aspect of that. When my kids were younger, we spent a lot of time there, spending time with them there and family members. So I want to make sure we have a balance of both businesses
Time
for
is
young
up.
and older residents. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay.
Love getting gonged.
Same question, Emily.
Thank you. That's certainly a challenge, but it's also part of the charm, right? That's part of why we love this city, is because in that 1 square mile, not only do you have the quality of life of feeling comfortable raising your kids here, but on any given Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, you head down by the path and it's like a different world. But certainly our businesses rely on the vibrance of our nightlife as much as they rely on the daytime business to our main street. So balancing that out is very important. We want to make sure that Hoboken continues to be a destination for visitors, but ensure that we have enough public safety force to ensure quality of life for the residents who are here all the time. But it is my hope we're continuing to see, families who have committed to staying and raising their children here. We know that because the high school has effectively almost doubled in size over the last several years. That's amazing to watch, and I know more and more I'm hearing from residents who are relocating here towards the end of their life as empty nesters because they like being in a town where they can walk to dinner, have a drink, and then walk home again. It's a wonderful thing. It's part of what makes Hoboken special. So I think it's incumbent on all of us to hear from all of those stakeholders. I think the Hoboken Business Alliance has done a great job of ensuring that there's representation across a number of different types of businesses, including our restaurants and our bar
15
scene,
seconds.
because that is an important component. But by coming together in the name of the larger community through the Business Alliance, I think that's been a great way to ensure all of their voices are heard.
Thank you.
So similar to what Emily and Ruben said, I mean, one of the great things about Hoboken is there really is room for people of all backgrounds, of businesses of all types, all kind of, we have figured it out as a community mostly how to live together in our 1 square mile. And I think being considered a party town, being considered a family town, being considered a place where empty nesters come, those are all great, they're all great titles for our community. We bump into, every once in a while, we bump into the edges of that where there's just, where there's conflicts, right? We have a party atmosphere in an area that may have a residential neighborhood, and what we need to do is just meet with all the stakeholders and try and find the right balance. But what I would say is, for our businesses, what we need to do is, and what the HBA was originally supposed to do, and they've done a great job, but really try to find ways to support
30
businesses.
seconds.
Thank you. Support businesses citywide in different ways, so that they don't have this concentration of reliance on like a nightlife, et cetera. We need to do a better job of supporting businesses kind of throughout the city, not just in our commercial corridors. And I think
15
there's a real
seconds.
opportunity there that, to me, I will pursue as mayor. Thanks.
Thanks. Pat?
Hi, I will 100% support all businesses, not just the nightlife, but I was a firm fighter for the bars. I showed up when they tried to close the bars down or whatever, because I have teenager kids, and they like to party, and I mean, I was young once, and I like to party, but I even brought it to the table to give them a fine, because a lot of them, I'm going back to the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and I know a lot of businesses lost a lot of money by canceling that parade, and it was politically motivated. During the election, everybody fought. They didn't want the parade. But I fought with those guys, and I understand how it feels to lose the business and the money, but I said public safety first, put the people's safety and their well-being and their quality of life first. But my thing is, we could work together as a team, with the mayor and plus the city council, not wait until there's an election and play favoritism. And the bars know, shout out to me, I advocated for you guys,
30
and I will
seconds.
continue to advocate, and that's what Hoboken is famous for, the nightlife. We'll keep it rolling, guys.
Dini?
Thank you. I was speaking with a bar owner recently who's been here forever. I won't tell you who, because I don't have permission to name them, but they said Hoboken is not fun anymore. It used to be such a lively city full of young people late into the night. It's not fun anymore. We moved here because we thought it was such a fun city, and we would love to see it maintain that character. But at the same time, you do have to provide public safety for sure. Today, when I was sitting in my office, which is on 1st and Hudson, a local businessman came over, and he said he's struggling because he cannot keep homeless people from hanging around his store. They sit on his stoop, so that prevents the customers from coming in. And sometimes they leave things behind, and then there needs to be a cleanup. In fact, what happened recently with his store was a gentleman, a homeless person, threw a stone through the
30
window
seconds.
and broke the glass. The police arrested him, but because of our cash bail laws, the person was released the same day. Guess what they did? They went to New York City and they stabbed 3 people. We really have to empower our public
15
safety force
seconds.
to make sure that they can arrest those who are causing problems for our businesses, and then keep them arrested or behind bars unless till the court case is resolved. Thank you.
Do we get the rebuttal?
Michael?
Thank you. This question was posed as an either or, and the reality is Hoboken's for everyone, right? When the city partners with the business community, a lot of the issues that have happened over the years start to go away. Any business owner will tell you that they need to make money. So to make money, they will take the opportunities to promote in any way they need to make sure they're paying their staff. When we do that, and the city is not a partner in that, you have some bad actors. So how do we partner with business community to make sure that as a city, we are regulating those types of events? We need to start bringing back our cultural events, our parades, Look at what happened on the 4th of July. We had a local business owner sponsor an amazing day on Pier A. I was there with my kids for the
30
whole day.
seconds.
Why are we not doing a holiday festival on Pier A or a tree lighting? It also goes to the quality of life issues in town. The more we do to protect our residents and increase
15
our
seconds.
patrols, the better off we'll be. We need to put our cops back on the streets. We need to make sure they're patrolling our streets and our parks and making sure we all stay safe.
So, one of the questions that came up across the board when we were talking to our members and people concerned was the permitting and licensing system. And government has not always been a good partner in this. If you look at many high-growth states, you can open up a new business within 30 days, but if you look in Hoboken, it can take 6 months to a year, and many times a business owner has used up all of their capital on paying licenses or fees or rent before they can even sell the first product. So how can we fix the permitting process, especially to help entrepreneurs and small businesses? And it goes to Emily first.
Sure. Thank you. This is a great question, and we certainly, I think, probably get this often. I think that was one of the first things that I had hoped that the Business Alliance would focus on. I think they really need to do basically an audit of the process that's involved in going through the city of Hoboken with respect to permitting, and do literally a checklist. I mean, it sounds simple, right? It sounds like a no-brainer, but we don't provide that right now. If you show up and you say, I want to start this business, there's no expectation of exactly how many documents or forms you have to fill out, what the timeline is associated with each, who has to sign off on them, so that someone has a full set of understanding of what they're walking into. So it's something that sounds basic, but I think you have to start there. You really need to develop a very strong set of guidance documents that you can provide to anyone who comes through that door, and be very clear about it. Because what I don't like hearing is when someone says, well, I didn't hire the right contractor, I didn't hire the person who works locally, who knows the right person, who's in the office, who knows exactly what
30
that process
seconds.
looked like. You should be able to have any contractor come in with you through that process and ensure that you have the same treatment. And I think standardizing that process, creating full transparency from the beginning, and basically orient people into that process is a really easy way to
15
combat that.
seconds.
Tiffany.
Sure. We get this complaint all the time. I've talked to a number of business owners that really are behind significantly, as you mentioned, when they open their doors. Councilman Jabbour mentioned the Hoboken Business Alliance, and that was what they were trying to do. Unfortunately, the city has been a good partner for businesses or the HBA in some regards selectively, but they really just didn't want to work with the HBA on this very specific topic, as well as any updates to our zoning, and they tried. And that is a function of, we have some people in City Hall, in zoning, in our building department that are great. They do things a certain way. They've only done it a certain way for a long time. Our zoning officer doesn't report to anyone. Our head of the building department doesn't report to anyone. So they have a lot of autonomy, and that they probably shouldn't have. There should be more oversight to both of them. And very specifically within the building department, we just need more resources. And I've talked to members, some of the practitioners in that office, and they want more resources. They know they're behind. So as mayor, I would definitely get in there. That would be one of the first things that we would overhaul and make this happen.
Pat.
Hi, I keep hearing them say, as mayor, I will. You're a councilwoman. You had the opportunity you should have. People come to me all the time with this, and there's a process, and in that process is the zoning, the planning board, the building permit department. Sometime, like now, when it's during an election and they play favoritism with their family and friends and buddies that want to open a business, I've seen the process go within a week. And I've also seen, and I go to every meeting. I'll give you the agendas. And I also seen it myself. If they don't like you and you're not on their table and then they click, it takes sometimes 6 months to a year. to open that business. And by that time, like this young man said, they didn't spend the money or whatever. But that's one thing we have to assure. These boards and these committees, it starts the political backdoor wheeling and dealing. So if you want to believe, if you want to believe whatever my colleagues or my opponents are saying, I'm actually physically there. And I think that's what the problem is. Stop playing
30 seconds.
favoritism. Stop playing favoritism. Treat everyone equal, and then speed up the process. Find a way where the process could accommodate all of us, not if you a clique of the mayor. Thank you.
Do I get to rebut?
Sure.
Okay, just very quickly. You know, as council members, there's 4 of us up here. We don't get to direct the resources of the city. Our job is to legislate. Our job is to advocate, to lobby on behalf of people. We go to the administration. We ask them to make changes, but that's all we can do. We don't
15
get to direct the resources, so I just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Dini?
For a hot second, there was a business on Washington Street called Brooklyn Dumplings. It was started by a friend of ours. It took him 2 years to get all the permits. It was a fad among the teenagers to see these dumplings come out of a machine, but in 2 years that fad was gone and he shut down within 6 months. What he told me was, the permitting process is such that you don't even know what permits you need. You start out with absolutely no knowledge of what is necessary, and now you're at the whim of the permitting office that tells you, oh, now you need this, and now you need this, and now you need that. And it takes a long, long time. I'll give you another example. There's a fish store on Washington Street now. They didn't even know that because it's a fish store, they needed a hood. They just thought a hood is for those operations where you have a kitchen. They didn't have a kitchen, so they didn't get a hood. Took them a year to get the hood and install, and delayed their business. We shouldn't even
30
need
seconds.
we shouldn't even need Hoboken Business Alliance if our city was working well. Hoboken Business Alliance is trying to fix things that city cannot fix. They're trying to come up with a concierge system so the businesses can approach a concierge and concierge can help them with
15
the
seconds.
process. In all other cities, it's the city that does that. Let's fix the city and not try to put Band-Aids on it.
Michael?
This is part of my 100-day plan. This is something that should be done almost immediately once I take office. It is not the job of the HBA to fix this problem. It is absolutely the job of the city of Hoboken to get this under control. And it's pretty easy. First, we need to digitize everything. We're still in the 19th century when it comes to our documents. All those documents need to be placed online. They need to be digitized so that all different departments have access to them immediately. We don't need to walk files from the construction office to the zoning office to any other office in the city of Hoboken. That's first. Then you digitize the process so that now a business owner can actually fill out those applications, fill out those things that he or she needs to do online, and we have immediate access to that. And then finally, the last step of that is to have someone that would be used as an expediter in that process.
30 seconds.
So you, as a business owner, would be assigned one individual to walk you through that process. And every time there's a snag or every time there's a holdup, that expediter would then walk you through the process to make sure that it moves smoothly.
15 seconds.
We should not be waiting 6, 8, or 10 months from start to open. It just cannot happen anymore.
Ruben?
First of all, I'm very glad that everyone's been watching my videos when it comes to small businesses and supporting it. We've been talking about a lot of this in my platform. So first, it goes back to education and customer service. What do you mean by education? People don't understand the rules of what it takes to open a business. So quarterly, we'll have seminars for anyone who wants to open a business in Hoboken. Say, come visit Hoboken. You want to open a business, here's the process. And once you decide to take that leap of faith, you want to invest your hard-earned dollars in the city of Hoboken and opening a small business with us, we'll assign someone to you. You will get a customer service number. And that customer service individual will walk you from the process from A to Z. So you understand exactly what you have to go through in the city of Hoboken. It shouldn't take 18 months for Angelo's Seafood Market to open. It shouldn't take 8 months for Pickle Joy to open. We want people to invest in this city. We want them to understand what they have to do to invest in this city properly and walk them through that process from A to Z. That's what we've been talking about our entire campaign. simplify government, make sure that government's working for our small businesses, making sure that our government's working
30
for its
seconds.
people and beyond. So simplify everything, quarterly seminars, education, and customer service returning to our city. Thank you.
All right, this question is for Tiffanie Fisher. Residents and commuters rely on the PATH and New Jersey Transit, but both have had disastrous years, especially as demand for night and weekend service grows. What are your plans to work with the agencies to resolve these ongoing issues?
Sure. These are tough issues. I've always worked with the Port Authority and New Jersey Transit. When I first became on the City Council, all the growth over the prior 10 years was uptown, and we had crazy long bus lines. And I worked with New Jersey Transit, and as a result, they created the express bus to go uptown as well as the 11th Street bus. So just working with them to think about how to address not only our current population, but we're going to see Hoboken's population grow 20%, probably 2/3 of that in the northwest corner of Hoboken, over the next 7 or 8 years, and we don't have transportation to support that. So we need to get New Jersey Transit to give us additional buses. We need a 15th Street light rail station to be able to get people from Northwest Hoboken down to the path or closer to where they're ultimately going. And we need to work with the
30
Port
seconds.
Authority to make sure, importantly, to make sure that we do not lose capacity in Hoboken, because Jersey City is growing faster than Hoboken, and there's only a certain amount of capacity going through those tunnels. And every time they grow a little bit faster,
15 seconds.
we lose capacity in Hoboken. So we need a mayor who is going to be there fighting for its residents every single day on commuting issues.
Pat?
I hope tonight all of these words I'm hearing with respect to New Jersey Transit come to surface with what Ms. Fisher said. I went to violations about 2 years ago. They had a meeting with New Jersey Transit. They wanted to close all of the rails down, and maybe 2 council people showed up. I don't know if you can remember. But I think the council members and the mayor, along with New Jersey Transit, to come to the table to collaborate where both parties on both sides could benefit. But I have attended a few meetings, and they was open to do that, but they all got to work together as a team.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was on the board of New Jersey Transit for 4 years. New Jersey Transit loves the 126 bus from the business standpoint. It's a 2-mile ride. They can put 100 people in those articulated buses, and they collect $4 from each one. They love running the 126 bus. The problem is the weekends, when they feel that the demand is not there. So what ends up happening is, if you're living uptown and the bus starts from downtown, by the time it gets to uptown, it is full, and the people waiting around 13th Street, 14th Street have to now wait for longer. I have connections at these agencies. I worked for Governor Murphy for 4 years. I can use those connections and bring those changes that we need for Hoboken. I'll give you another example, PATH. PATH is a stepchild of Port Authority. The reason it doesn't run well is because it's a money-losing business for Port Authority, so it pays no attention to it, rather just go away. Well, we have
30
to make
seconds.
sure that it does. 20,000 of Hoboken residents every day commute to New York City. They're paying Port Authority in terms of bus, rail,
15
bridges,
seconds.
tunnels. We can use that leverage to lobby Port Authority so it pays more attention to PATH trains.
Michael?
This is a twofold solution. One is relationships. Those relationships that I have for the 22 years in government will come into play every single time we need to deal with agencies outside the city of Hoboken. The other one, which I think is much more important, is actual leadership. We need to stand tall to make sure that when there is a detriment to the citizenry of the city of Hoboken, we stop that in its tracks, pun intended. The reality is, for far too many years, we have been run roughshod when it comes to all these outside projects. These agencies come in and say, we need to do this, this is what we have to do. Now, granted, they have been good partners in communicating with us, but they have not been the best partners in letting us, the city of Hoboken, determine
30
how,
seconds.
when, and why those projects happen. That needs to end, and under a Russo administration, it will.
Ruben?
Thank you very much. $5 ferries, my friends. For subsidizing $5 ferries for Maritime Mondays will cost the city of Hoboken $350,000 a year. From there, we could work with New York Waterway so they could subsidize another one day per month for another $350,000 a year. We could call that Waterway Wednesdays. Then from there, we can partner with the state of New Jersey, which then we could qualify for transportation grants for $500,000 to $1 million a year to subsidize 2 more days a month. So that's potentially 48 days a month where individuals can take ferries for $5. And that could lower the impact in traffic and foot traffic in both our buses and our path station, because the path station tunnels are not getting any wider. And then we need to expand our 126 bus service to go down Madison Street and service Western Hoboken. So that could ease traffic off of Willow Avenue and our Washington Street buses. So that could, and west side of Hoboken is growing.
30 seconds.
And Willow Avenue's not getting any wider, Washington Street's not getting any wider. We need to service Western Hoboken a little bit better by providing a bus service, especially in our morning hours, while everyone's leaving almost at the same time. People come home at various hours of the evening, but people are going to work almost at the same time for those 5 days a week. So we get a 126 bus taking people to New York City on Madison Street. That will ease the lines on the other two bus lines. So that's our proposal, and that's how we could fund $5 ferries for Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 48 days a year, my friends.
Emily?
Sure. So as mayor, I think it's very important, and I will advocate loudly for the transit options that are honestly part of why we love to live in Hoboken. Having so many different options available, it is at least one of the benefits. When the path goes down, you can take the ferry. It's nice to have that backup plan, or if there's a problem in the Lincoln Tunnel, you know you have different options. But recently, the path service has been declining. I was at the most recent PATH board meeting, actually Port Authority board meeting, in order to speak because I know that the Port Authority is capable of being a better partner to the city of Hoboken. We saw it when they had the project to shut down the station for the entire month of February, and the recent closures, unfortunately, have been an extension of faulty equipment that came through that process. But we know that they can do better because they were very much on top of that project and very transparent with all of us about what was happening. We know that we can work with New Jersey Transit to see successes with improvements on our bus system. Over the last 8 years, I've seen them move in the direction of using more of the
30
articulated
seconds.
buses, which has been helpful for the increased capacity. We need to now work with them to add another line on the buses to the western side on the Madison and Monroe route. We need a 15th Street light rail station, especially if 15th Street is going to become our new commercial corridor. And we need to continue to
15
ensure that the
seconds.
HOP service works in conjunction with our business community to be even more accessible by providing weeknight and weekend service. Thank you.
So our next round of questions starts with Pat. Hoboken is infamously known for its scarce parking. And parking impacts residents, it impacts commuters, it impacts workers at the stores in town, business owners, and shoppers. So how do you begin to address the parking crisis?
Who are you telling the perfect question? There's no solution to that, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but what I do as your next mayor will stop outsourcing a parking utility director making almost 200 grand. Let's start with that, and he don't know a parking space from a sidewalk. I just think it's not fair to keep telling people, everybody have a parking issue. And I also sat on a handicap committee too in that parking with respect to parking. From the handicap spaces, putting people's livelihood in danger, especially sick people that need it. We need handicap spaces bad. For them to have parking utility never utilized, you call there, you can never get in touch with the director. They keep taking tons of money talking about they having a study. Study the people that lived here since the 60s, and we could tell you about parking. I don't like they keep outsourcing in South Jersey, making up different things with these
30
contractors with respect to parking. The parking issue is a no-brainer. It should stay in-house, in Hoboken, in the parking utility. Get somebody that live here to run our department. We don't need to outsource, leave the outsourcing out
15
of the
seconds.
parking situation, and that's the first thing I hope whoever become mayor take care of. The parking is horrible. It's a no-brainer.
Dini?
I'm not as pessimistic as Pat here is. I think this is a problem we can solve. We just have to make it a priority. Anytime there is scarcity, you look at the supply and you look at the demand. Let me start with the demand first. Did you know this, that for 6,000 parking spaces, we have 12,000 permits issued? The permitting rules in this city are so arcane that we are so liberal with giving out permits because there was a time when our population was only 35,000 people. So we give out permits to, for example, somebody who's 62 years old can get 2 free resident parking permits. We give out permits for non-residents. So if you have a visitor coming in, you can get them a weekly permit, unlimited amount of those, for $37 for the week, when the garage is probably a better option. So what ends up happening is these permits get issued without asking any questions, and now we have way too many cars looking for that one lucrative,
30 seconds.
elusive spot. That's the demand side we have to fix. The supply side, we live in 770 House. We can look outside our window and see the ShopRite and the large parking lot that's just sitting there. Why is it just sitting there? Let's do a public-private partnership and build a garage there. So the
15
neighborhood,
seconds.
which is growing, the residents have a choice at night to park their car in that garage. It helps the shoppers, it helps the residents.
Michael?
I think people throw around a lot of numbers when it comes to our parking, but we really don't know. We don't know how many parking spaces we have on the street. We could guesstimate, but a very simple fix here is, number one, let's delineate the parking so we have an actual inventory. Years ago, I remember one of our directors of the parking utility came before the city council, and I questioned him about the parking supply in the city. And he very succinctly said, we do have enough cars, and we do have enough parking spaces for the cars in the city of Hoboken. The problem is that most people want to be on the street rather than in a parking garage. So how do we fix that? That's the first task. Once we do that, we could build additional parking, because now we'll know exactly how many parking spaces we absolutely have. That's what we need to do. We're guessing most of the time. Another thing we need to do is we need to increase the ability to
30
move through the
seconds.
city of Hoboken. We need to reinvent our HOP system. Our HOP system should be a system not only of a designated bus route, it should also be an on-demand system, almost like an Uber or Lyft. There's so many different things that we need to
15
do.
seconds.
Changing the 2-hour parking limit on our commercial corridor to a 3-hour limit so people could actually come here and enjoy a meal with their spouse or their family. There's a lot of things that we need to do, and there's so much more when it comes to parking.
Michael is questioning my number. May I say something?
Sure.
Michael, I was getting my numbers from the $600,000 that the city has spent on doing the curbside study. The report came out a few months ago.
Ruben?
Yep. Thank you very much. So the first thing we do is for any new building that gets developed that has parking in that facility, any resident that lives there will be forced to park in that facility. We'll have to give them a different permit, not an overnight permit for the city of Hoboken. They still want to drive within the city of Hoboken to use our other establishments, but overnight parking will be restricted for those new buildings where residents have parking within the building. That will help alleviate some of the parking in our streets. Secondly, we'll have perimeter parking like we're having on 38 Jackson Street get developed right now. And in partnership with the city of Hoboken, we'll ask our visitors to the city of Hoboken to park on the facility at 38 Jackson Street or a facility that gets built in northern Hoboken, so they don't have to use the internal portion of Hoboken. And we'll utilize our HOP system to get those individuals to go around the city of Hoboken, do their shopping, their dining, and or walking on our waterfront and visiting our parks and all the other wonderful amenities that we have throughout the city. So that keeps people off of our streets and the traffic out of internal Hoboken as well.
30 seconds.
And then thirdly, reinvest in letting people know where our parking is, utilizing the dollars that the Parking Transportation Committee makes to put that back in
15
creating parking, educating people about parking, letting them know what a new wayfinding system. We have a Garage B that has about 200 to 250 parking spaces every single day vacant. Why are not people using that facility? We have Midtown Garage, I'm sorry, wrong garage.
And your
Midtown
time is
Garage has those spaces available to them. Garage B has a lot less capacity there
And
at
your
that
time is
facility.
up.
We have to educate people
Thank
as they
you.
visit our town where to park.
Emily,
Thank you. So parking is a perennial political issue. No one is up here is going to be able to offer a silver bullet and solve this, that's for sure. But what we have to do is be efficient about the space that we have for our 1 square mile city. For me, that's prioritizing the garages. As mayor, I think the first thing that needs to happen is to prioritize the repairs that are needed at our Midtown Garage. We have diminished capacity there now because the concrete is literally melting onto cars. And that's a problem. It's a problem not just for the fact that we lose those spaces, but then people who are parking there are having damage done to their car. And that's not good for Hoboken's reputation, certainly as a destination. We need to develop an additional parking garage in the northwest. At one point, we explored and I supported adding one to the northwest corner to the property that the city now owns as part of our DPW garage. I think that needs to be revisited. And we also need to continue to look at incentivizing alternative approaches, whether that's investing in our hop to expand that use, continuing to ensure that we have a vibrant city break program
30
so that
seconds.
people can use that as an alternate method, or continuing to invest in technology that allows for wayfinding so that people can get to the city, know quickly where to go, and then be able to park their car and walk from the rest of there. It's definitely going to be a challenge, but it's one that
15
there's a number of
seconds.
solutions that I look forward to implementing as mayor.
Tiffany.
Sure. So I recently heard a great phrase, two things can be true at the same time. For the last 15 or so years, we've really had a policy against cars and parking. Parking has been a top quality of life issue for everyone in Hoboken, and it's been, a priority of mine since day one. We don't have 6,000 spaces. We have 9,000 spaces on our streets. We did do a full study, and we actually do know the inventory of spaces in Hoboken. But we need to also build additional capacity. We have to recognize that we have so many cars in Hoboken, and it's okay for us to address the need for additional parking. I've pushed, and hopefully we'll be soon announcing that we have a municipal parking garage behind the 2 gas stations in North Hoboken as part of a new development. And I think the idea of doing parking in the middle of Hoboken on the ShopRite parking lot at some point as they think
30
about
seconds.
redeveloping that is a great idea. But in parallel, what we also need to do is come up with ways to have people rely less on parking, right? We need to expand our corner car program within our parking garages. We need to expand the hop and have a
15
real reliable
seconds.
transportation system within Hoboken, so you don't need to have your car as much. And we should have someone that is focused both on improving transportation as well as expanding parking.
So this question is for Dini. Residents expect immediate food deliveries, yet solutions like Uber Eats and DoorDash are causing things like e-bikes, trucks, and loading zones, and shifting the burden to our neighbors and local police, causing congestion and safety concerns. How do you address these issues without causing a burden to small businesses?
This problem emerged almost 4 years ago, and this is where I think our council has really failed us, because the problem is still there and it's getting worse. I think the mistake that the council made in terms of the solution they tried to come up with was have everyone come and register and wear a vest. Well, people didn't register and they don't wear a vest. What we need to do is, instead of looking for their registration, they all are carrying a phone that has a unique number on it. That is their registration. We can identify them with their telephone. So if a police officer finds somebody breaking the rule, all they have to do is take down that telephone number and reach out to the app. We don't hold apps responsible for the problems that we are facing in our city. Part of it is these apps have figured out that if they start making campaign contributions to the council people, then maybe they'll be left alone. We have to find accountability with these apps.
30 seconds.
We must make sure, just like Uber driving does, that there is a rating for these e-bikers. And if you find an e-biker who's breaking the rule, their telephone number is then communicated to the app, and app then, what it does is it
15
deprioritizes giving them new orders, and therefore their livelihood gets hurt and they'll change their behavior. That's the way to fix it.
Michael?
I was proud to sponsor the only legislation to try to regulate this industry with some of my council colleagues. I think the answer is pretty simple, right? First and foremost, we need to enforce the laws to make sure that those who are delivering are not breaking the local laws in the city of Hoboken. It's pretty simple. I think the police department is starting to do that more and more. I would hope that they would continue to do that, and as mayor, I will make sure they do that. The other thing we need to do is make sure there are certain bike zones for these delivery drivers. We can't have 40 or 50 just hanging out outside of McDonald's, right? Having 3 or 4 on a block, move down to the next block, 3 or 4 more there. They're on a bike. They're delivering all over the city of Hoboken. Driving to their location to pick up the food is pretty simple, right? That is something that I think is really simple to change, and allowing more of our curb space to be used as a loading zone or a bike zone for those
30
delivery
seconds.
drivers. The other thing we need to do is work with those apps so that they're actually educating their drivers. And then finally, the last thing I would do is, if they are continuously breaking the law in the city of Hoboken, we do an impound
15
system where
seconds.
we take the bike, and then they would have to come into the city of Hoboken to register at that point. So I think there's a lot of things that we can do, and I think it's just about having the political will to make sure we enforce it.
Ruben?
Yep. I was also a sponsor of the Test and Vest program. We don't know if it's going to work or not if it's not enforced. And currently it's not being enforced. And as mayor, we'll ensure that that law is going to be enforced. Secondly, what we have to do to make, instead of riders waiting on their streets for the call, to create off-street locations with the app programs where the riders will not be on our streets. They could be in a location waiting for the calls, charging their cell phones, using the facilities in those off-street locations so they're not clogging our sidewalks, so strollers can get through, our senior citizens can walk by freely, and people don't have to see people just laying down on the sidewalks waiting for their call, right? We know it's a demand service. They're not here for no reason. Hoboken residents are utilizing that service. So we're going to utilize that service. Let's make sure it's a safe service, that they're wearing their vests, that they're registering with the city of Hoboken, and we have off-street locations for them to charge their phones, wait for their calls of service, and to use any bathroom facilities that they need to utilize. And that's on us. That's on us to enforce. That takes work to do all of those things, and partnership with the apps to make sure that we have good actors. We could take a monthly roll and say, these are the drivers that are breaking our laws consistently, and they no longer work for you or within our city limits. So, thank you very much.
Emily?
Sure. E-bike delivery drivers are a problem in the city of Hoboken. Hard stop. I did not support Test and Vest. I did not feel that it was going to work. The nature of drivers and how that industry is built, it's transient. So someone who may register 1 month is not going to be the person who's here next month. Both the chief of police and the director of public safety, the night that legislation passed, stood at the microphone and told the city council that this legislation was flawed and it would be very challenging for them to implement. After that, we had a task force that met several times. We worked collaboratively with our transportation department, with the police department, to figure out how we could update that ordinance in order to make sure it would be more easily enforced. Unfortunately, that task force was never able to come together for a proposal that had a support of the majority of the council. So what would I do? As mayor, I would implement a hub for e-bike delivery drivers.
30 seconds.
We would need to create a place that incentivizes moving drivers off of Washington Street, create a shelter, create a place that people could charge their phones, they can charge batteries, use a restroom, so that Main Street continues to be beautiful. We need to work together and use the
15
RFP
seconds.
that was already developed by the transportation department and bring that back to the table. We also need to explore a limit on the total number of delivery drivers in the city, and we need to continue with community policing efforts to keep more boots on the ground to ensure that police are able to be visible
Your time
and
is
help
up.
deter bad
Your
behaviors.
time is up.
Can I respond? I was part of that task force.
Go for it.
Thank you very much. I was part of that task force to try and come up with a solution, But when you go to meetings, I think we all know when some people do not want to find a solution to a problem, where they just want to say no or resist, because the idea comes from someone outside the administration. And we've dealt with that time and time again. When other council members propose ideas, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, you were met with resistance by the administration for enforcement. That happened time and time again. This is just one example of where that happens. And as mayor, I don't care who comes up with a good idea. If it's a good idea, we're going to support that idea. Thank you.
Tiffany.
May I respond as well? I was part of that task force. Just a quick one. I just want to remind everybody, when you want something to die in government, you create a task force.
Okay, Tiffany.
I was not on the task force. But what I would say is, as a person who wasn't on the task force never approached me with any alternatives. So as your vote counting to get to 5, maybe I would have, but nothing came out of the task force. Listen, I think what we need to do as a city is we need to understand that our city has changed, right? You know, post-COVID, we rely on deliveries of all sorts, and it complicates everything. It complicates, you know, safety at intersections. It complicates walking down our sidewalks, especially on Lower Washington Street. We have safety concerns with the e-bikes that are riding all over the place, and we really need to just sit back and say, how do we approach all of this? You know, we need more loading zones for deliveries on our streets. I've spoken with a couple delivery guys recently, both guys, and you know, we need to talk to them about what they need as well. Not that we're pandering to them, but you know, they don't have public restrooms. So as we think about some of the challenges businesses are having, you know, providing infrastructure to support this necessary type of delivery for our community is important, from having locations for them to charge their phones, et cetera, as well as to wash their hands,
15 seconds.
you know, use a restroom. And I would say one last thing is I am the co-author of Test Invest, and this was something the administration didn't want to succeed, and they obstructed every single step of the way.
Your time is up.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, here we go again with place to blame. I have here, this is me with a vest on and a bunch of bikers, the police department. We're on the corner of 3rd.
Nice, yeah.
We're on the corner of 3rd and Washington. Just like you guys, I got sick of seeing it. I got sick of seeing the 1,000 bikes, food bags everywhere. But see, instead of always talking about something, be a part of the solution. I got out my bed and I was pulling bikes over we was by the old Capital One Bank, pulling bikers over there, get over there and get registered for a vest. Then we got in the biggest argument because they was like, we don't live in Hoboken, we from Union City. I said, well, you gonna register in Hoboken, I don't care where you from. And you gotta be a part of it. They gotta be willing to work together. Guys, it's an election in 8 weeks. People gonna tell you anything. Don't fall victim, please. We need change, and I'm a part of that change, okay? I advocate for every situation
30
there
seconds.
is. Thank you.
So, Michael, one of the things, just the theme, it'll start you off with this next one, but a lot of the theme from parking, et cetera, comes down to affordability. One of the big affordability issues that we're aware of is that if you're working in one of the shops in Hoboken, you can't afford to live here, right? So how do you address the affordability crisis, especially through maybe affordable housing or workforce housing, or even parking for people who are commuting here to work?
Yeah, you know, I took a calculated risk about a year ago when I started putting out policy position papers, and I knew that my opponents here may either do one of two things, right? One would be either emulate those policy position papers and the solutions therein, or they would attack those policy positions. One of the biggest ones is affordable housing and workforce housing for me. You know, I'm a renter. I'm the only tenant here. Everybody else owns their units.
Yeah, right.
I mean, oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Pat, excuse me. But the reality is we need to start building for the middle class. We have the tale of two cities. We work really, really hard to make sure we have housing for those on the lowest of the socioeconomic scale, and we have plenty on the upper end of that scale. We've missed out the opportunity through all these years is
30
to build
seconds.
for the middle class. I have very clear plans to make sure we continue to do that utilizing city-owned assets. Garage B is one of those assets. For years, I've been working not only with the administration,
15 seconds.
but others to make sure something like that comes to fruition in the city of Hoboken. We need to make sure we house across that entire socioeconomic spectrum. And as mayor, I will make sure that is one of my first priorities so that everyone in the city of Hoboken
Your
has the
time is
ability
up.
to live here, whether they work here or
Your
not.
time is up.
Thank you. Ruben?
Yep, thank you very much. Affordability, the last 100% affordable housing building that we built was back in 2003, 2004, located at 11th and Jefferson Street and 11th and Adams Street. That was the last time we built complete affordable housing. When Housing Authority redevelopment plan was taking place, one thing we wanted to ensure that no Housing Authority resident will be displaced in that project. And secondly, we got to expand the affordable housing aspect of that to make sure it was workforce housing, because we want people to live, work, and enjoy Hoboken as well. And when Garage B conversation was happening, because that garage needs rehabilitation in the worst way. So what other items do we need in the city of Hoboken? And that item of workforce housing and affordable housing on our city sites, on our city properties, began to fester in our transportation committee. And that's why we had the conversation of trying to move that project forward, and hopefully it is feasible to try and help people live, work, and enjoy Hoboken as well. I think housing
30
affordability is not just a
seconds.
Hoboken problem, but it's a problem throughout our country. But we need to make it a priority, try and solve it within our city limits. Many people want to enjoy Hoboken and its amenities. Hoboken is a wonderful place. I've had the pleasure of living here my entire life, and I like to see
15
people,
seconds.
regardless of economic stature, be able to have the opportunity to enjoy that as well. And I think we look at our property at 11th and Willow, which is also going to be senior housing, and our property at 2nd and Harrison Street, which could also be part of our rehabilitation of the Housing Authority as well,
Your
to try and
time is
meet those
up.
extra
Your time is
affordable
up.
workforce housing
Your time
needs.
is up.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your consistency on that.
Emily?
Sure. Affordable housing is an incredibly important conversation, and I'm so glad that this community has been focused on that as part of this campaign season. We certainly have faced, I know for my community, I continue to hear from other parents who are raising their kids here, and as their footprint expands, they are not able to afford to bump up to slightly more space, because suddenly you go from a modestly affordable unit to $1 million brownstones, because that's all that you can afford in this marketplace. So we need to look at what we're doing in terms of our zoning regulations to ensure that we're building a housing stock that is welcoming of multiple footprints for the families that need them, and for the different types of residents who are looking for that. Sometimes it's actually going the other direction for people who want to also find good options as they're downsizing. I mentioned earlier the folks relocating to Hoboken later in life. The support for workforce housing through Garage B, I think that's been a great project. It's exciting to see that move forward, because it's a more efficient use of our city space. Having a parking garage is not a maximal use of that in an environment when we all have different needs. We need more rec spaces. We need more housing. That's a really critical piece of that. And I want to also underscore the importance of protecting renters. That's been a
15
conversation
seconds.
we've had of late, certainly the referendum in 2024 that looked to undo rent control protections. It was something I was extremely vocal about, and I will continue as mayor to ensure that we have rent control protections, because that's an incredibly important part of the conversation around affordability of our
Your
housing.
time is up.
Thank you. Tiffanie?
Yeah. In our community, in every community, but in a community like Hoboken that has some of the highest, property values and land prices in the state, the government has to step in to ensure, at the very least, that we have like a labor housing balance, right? If we don't make as a priority building affordable housing and using every tool available to us, market pressures will eliminate all of that, and we'll be just a community that is filled with wealthy people that will not be as diverse, and we actually won't have the ability to have people even come into Hoboken to work in our restaurants, and work in the service field. So we have to do a lot. We have, most of Hoboken development has already been approved, so there's not really a lot of opportunity left in any large development. We have a couple more, and within those developments, we have 6,000 residential units and 700 affordable units that are going to come
30
online
seconds.
over the next 7 years. So we're going to see some affordable units coming in. It was an important part. I think that we need to consider maybe revisiting some of these and adding a workforce component into these projects. And
15 seconds.
additionally, we need to enforce our rent control. It's not just for lower rents, it's providing stability for renters that are renting longer term and not being subjected to outsized rent increases if the market will bear. So we need
Your
to provide
time is
that
up.
stability.
All right, affordable housing. Mike, you forgot to say, I live in affordable housing too, and I'm a firm fighter for affordable housing. I hear it at every meeting for the last 30-something years. We want affordable, we're gonna get affordable. And again, 8 weeks to the election, it all sounds good. There was a lawsuit in 1997 where the city of Hoboken was getting sued for no affordable housing. I'm going to look that up too. I'm going to surface that and probably reinstate it. That's a shame that you have to be a political buddy, a boss or something. I'm seeing it in the zoning and planning board, cutting deals, and then they tamper with the process. Okay, speaking of affordable housing, I'm glad Mike mentioned that. I live in Church Towers now. I done knocked on every door that I asked people to sign my petitions and say, here's an application, apply for affordable housing. Because the way the process itself is being tampered with is what we should address as council people. Or maybe I should become the mayor, and when I win, build an additional house on the back of my affordable housing. And
30
maybe then
seconds.
I could stay here and work at the stores. Thank you.
Dini.
Thank you. Building affordable housing is very different than keeping Hoboken affordable. Let me say that again. Building affordable housing is very different than keeping Hoboken affordable. You keep Hoboken affordable for homeowners by keeping property taxes low, and you keep Hoboken affordable for renters by putting some guardrails on rent increases. I'm talking about those corporate developers who have no guardrails right now on rent increases. This is a scene that plays out all the time. You get an email from your landlord saying, next year, your rent is gonna go up 15%, 20%. You as a renter now has to do a calculation. If I move out to another location, guess what I have to do? I have to come up with 2 months of security deposit. I have to come up with moving cost. I have to come up with broker fee. Sometimes a month rent, sometimes month and a half rent. That's almost
30
like
seconds.
having down payment ready to just be able to move. So all the power lies with the landlords. What I would do in Hoboken, which has happened in the rest of the country, is make the landlord pay for the broker fee. They are the ones selecting the broker.
15 seconds.
They should be the one who should pay for the broker, for the broker. And that way the barrier to move out of a building to another building is a lot lower for the renter.
All right, this question is for Ruben Ramos. According to studies, 87% of Hoboken properties are at risk of flooding in the next 30 years. Flooding remains one of Hoboken's most expensive and disruptive challenges. What concrete steps will you take to protect homes, businesses, and the city budget from the next flood?
I think we've taken a lot of steps in the right direction. I lived in West Hoboken my entire life, and we kind of had a running joke for a period of time where elected officials, including ourselves, I guess, promised a pool for many years when I was a kid too. And we said every time it rained, they delivered. So, flooding on corners? All right. So, when I was first elected, we had it flooded on Western Hoboken, just like it did for many years when I was growing up. So our first challenge was to go to North Hudson Sewage Authority and see what we could do to alleviate the flooding. And that's when we came with the flood pump system, the 4 flood pumps. We have 3 2 in place already, a 3rd going in place at North Hudson Resiliency Park, and a 4th will come online around the area of 3rd and River Street. So for that aspect of it. Then we passed laws saying that all of our buildings in the city of Hoboken have to be resilient as well, to retain water in our buildings, to keep that water off the street.
30 seconds.
And then when I was in the state legislature, we helped create the iBank system, where you could get money at 0% dollars for any infrastructure projects in the city of Hoboken. And one of the first projects funded in the state of New Jersey was the first Southwest Park. The second expansion of Southwest Park also has a
15
flooding
seconds.
a retention system there as well that holds 500,000 gallons. So we've made investments in our infrastructure. We've also seen brand new sewer lines go through Monroe Street, Madison Street, and a little bit of Jackson Street and Jefferson Street as well. So we made those improvements in Western Hoboken.
time
We
is
want to
up.
keep on making those investments as we move
Your
forward.
time is up.
Thank you.
Emily?
Sure. So I was here for Sandy, and it worries me sometimes that because Hoboken can sometimes be transient, that people don't understand the experience of going through Superstorm Sandy in this community. It was before I was on the city council, but I remember walking around for the days afterwards and seeing all of the damage and all of the business owners cleaning out, drywall and flooring and products that were destroyed. And Mayor Zimmer had a vision about how to address that with Rebuild by Design. She took the initiative to put together a proposal that was funded by the federal government, so no burden to the taxpayer locally, and that is currently under construction. And it's frustrating at times that there's a lot of construction, but the pieces that have to do with Rebuild by Design are very critical because that process going into place ensures that hopefully we never have to go through another Sandy. It creates the resist structures so that Hoboken doesn't become flooded
30
along the west
seconds.
side as it was for Sandy. It also started a chain of Hoboken really committing to being a national model for resiliency infrastructure, whether that's the Northwest Park, whether that's the rain gardens along Washington Street. All of those little changes really add up to make a difference. And with the added flood pump that has gone in, we're now able to better address the rain also coming from above, because with climate change, we're seeing more severe rainstorms. So we also have to more efficiently get the water out of the system and out of our streets. And all of that is moving in the right direction, and I'm committed to
time is
continuing
up.
that.
Tiffany?
Sure. Just before I was on, or was elected to City Council, Mayor Zimmer asked me to be on the Community Advisory Group for Rebuild by Design. And so I've been with that project since day one. And, she had a vision after, as Emily mentioned, after Hurricane Sandy, that, we need to do everything to not only address the risks of, hurricanes and superstorms, but also the everyday flooding that comes from these increasingly, or these rainstorms that have increasing velocities. So what Rebuild by Design is a whole series of investments in infrastructure that we've just been following since it started. So, as my colleagues mentioned, we have multiple pumps that help suck the water out from the west side. We have, upgraded sewer pipes. We've actually asked developers to, make financial contributions to help pay for some of that. But I think the thing that stands out the most is what's come out of it
30
is
seconds.
this partnership between the North Hudson Sewage Authority and the City of Hoboken that really works together on this topic in particular. So it's something that I've been working on, since the very beginning. For those who haven't lived in Hoboken a long
15
time,
seconds.
we used to have, whenever it rained, we'd have in any corner of Hoboken a foot of water that lasted all day. And now people are like, oh my God, it's a foot of water. And then 10 minutes later, oh my God, it's gone. And they don't know that it used to stay forever, but we're already seeing
Your
a lot of the
time is up.
benefits.
Your
Thanks.
time is up.
Hi. With respect to Rebuild by Design, are you saying that it's in place now? Because I don't see a difference. Wait, let me finish. I don't see a difference, and I take my little tours on a very rainy day. It don't have to be like Superstorm Sandy, and I lived on 1233 Park, across the street from Hudson T, wasn't touched. You couldn't even think that we was part of the storm. The water compared to downtown downtown Hoboken, right now, still today, when it rained, regular rain, my son can't come out his apartment. So I want to know where Rebuild by Design, if it's working or not working, from what Tiffany and Emily's saying, because I'm not saying that, I definitely appreciate you putting your efforts, but we got to do better with the flooding, because ShopRite, I can sit here and name all the places that floods. It still floods. So you got to come up with a better solution. I got to give y'all that. I got to agree. They at least started.
Yeah, so I'll just give one example. On the northeast corner of the ShopRite site, I had a video sent to me by someone who looks out over it in the last big rainstorm, and they're like, oh my God, it's flooding, and it was flooding. It was
15
probably a
seconds.
foot deep. And then 15 minutes later, she sent me another video, and all the water had dissipated, and you could see the ground. I mean, that's all of the pumps. That's all of the big bathtubs that are in the Northwest Resiliency Park, the Southwest Park, et cetera, that is just sucking in the water a lot
Your time
quicker.
is up.
Dini?
primary home is on 5th and Hudson. It was December 10th last year. I was home alone. 3 in the morning, I hear a banging on our doors. It was police. A water main had broken, and the flooding was getting into our basement. We were lucky. We only destroyed our basement. But our neighbors lost everything. The ones in Union Club at the street level, they had to move out for a year and get their house repaired. What has happened in our city is we adding more and more population when our infrastructure cannot handle it. This city is an ancient city. It was built for horse carts, and we adding more and more people on clay pipes and cast iron pipes that are 100, 120 years old. We're trying to replace them at a snail's pace. I think by 2030, we would have replaced only 20% of our pipes. We saw what happened yesterday. 2 big water main breaks.
30 seconds.
I just think that this whole idea of plugging our budget because we have a shortfall by adding more and more residents, more and more buildings, changing locations to redevelopment zones so the
15
builders can
seconds.
build more is a flawed idea. I think we have to come to the conclusion there is peak population for Hoboken and we may have reached it.
Michael?
So you heard a lot of stories about what happened when it flooded in Hoboken. You heard a lot of the things that we're doing and we're on the path to doing, right? Pump systems, our park systems with detention underneath them, building resiliency, and the rebuild by design resist structure. Those are all the things that we're currently doing. What I do a little bit different, in addition to those things, is I would expand our detention systems. So we don't utilize our sidewalk space or our street space to really build further detention systems. And we have the ability to do that using pervious concrete or asphalt so that we can hold that water and slowly dissipate it after storms hit the city of Hoboken. The other thing I would do when it comes to funding for a lot of this is I would leverage our North Hudson Sewage Authority commissioners. City of Hoboken has 3 commissioners on the North Hudson Sewage Authority, and anything that needs to get passed in that authority needs 7 votes.
30 seconds.
Without 3 votes from Hoboken, Hoboken has the ability to utilize that leverage to make sure we're spending less money from the city's coffers and more money through the North Hudson Sewage Authority to make sure we're doing more to stop the flooding in the
15
city.
seconds.
All right, this question is for Emily. Homelessness is a concern with recent issues in the park, retail businesses, and transportation centers. What initiatives will you implement to connect with the unsheltered population with services and job training that not only reduce homelessness, but strengthen our economy?
Sure. One of the things that I think is special about Hoboken is that we are a very compassionate community. We have a long-standing legacy with organizations like the Hoboken Shelter to work with people who are going through crises in their lives and who need assistance, not just in the short term, but to work to get people into permanent solutions. The shelter has done an incredible job of placing people into transitional housing, whether it's within town at MBS up at the old Y building or into apartments throughout Hudson County. They're part of the solution. But one of the challenges is that they don't necessarily have leadership in this space for bringing together the multiple organizations that are all working in the name of serving this population. And when there isn't collaboration and there isn't efficiency with how those organizations work together, then we're not doing just service to addressing this issue. It's something I know we heard about recently with the discussion around the benches on Washington Street. That is one of those challenges when you have the business community
30
interests
seconds.
and you're also dealing with the challenge of people who are unhoused in the same space. What we need to do is provide leadership and bring together those organizations to come up with solutions to identify gaps in how we're working to serve that population. That includes the hospital
15
and
seconds.
mental health services because we're not addressing some of the most serious cases. And we need to also continue to expand adding restrooms into all of our public spaces so that, like the Portland Loos that were just installed at Church Square Park, we're giving people
time is up.
resources that they need.
Tiffany?
Sure. So I work very closely with a number of people that are either unhoused or we recently got them housed. And I would echo what Emily just said. One of what I've observed in working closely with them, taking them to their various appointments, trying to get their services, is there's a lot of incredible people that work so hard to help this population, but there does lack a coordination, and I've heard it from all of them. They said we just need to get all of these agencies in a room so we don't have duplication of services, so we don't have gaps in services, and to do whatever we can to help facilitate a better outcome. I also have spoken with our county executive, who has an affordable housing task force, about building more housing like we have in Hoboken, the SRO, which is single resident occupancy, which is a great type of housing that we've heard feedback from people that are unsheltered, that's the kind of housing in many instances that they're looking for. Not all instances, but we often don't think that that's the type of housing that we should build, and that's why we need to kind of bring that whole conversation together, and we have a lot of people that are focused on it, just not coordinated. And lastly, I think you
15
mentioned
seconds.
how do we support the local economy. We should think about a work program that we've had in the past that allows people that are unhoused to work part-time, et cetera. And we should think about how we can do that either
Your
with the
time is
businesses
up.
or
Your
just the
time
city
is up.
themselves.
Thank you. Pat?
Hi. Ms. Fisher, you and Ms. Jabbour, Ruben, Mike, you guys know just 2 weeks ago, basically almost 3 weeks ago today, I've been fighting a huge homeless issue with this young lady. She even came to the council meeting begging and pleading. We got to first start with educating them how to manage their money and pay their rent on time, if it's a little bit at a time. Also, share with them the different places they could go to get the resources. I'd rather you take care of that and prevent them from being homeless. You guys know I go to court with you. I take them to court. I take them to go where they can get the resources. We shouldn't wait until they become homeless. I think we should prevent them from becoming homeless by starting an educational little program and meet with them one-on-one and teach them. I don't like to see doors locked and then I walk down the 3rd Street and they on that shelter line and the line is steady growing. The homeless population is sad because there's no affordable housing, number one. And number two, since the pandemic, most of those
30
grant
seconds.
fundings have ended. So that's why you're going to see more and more homeless people because they're not getting the grant for the personal loan protections for apartments. So with the homeless, let's see who becomes the next mayor. And it's bigger than getting a social worker, giving her
15
$80,000. And let's get the people to at least keep their apartments so they won't become homeless. Let's start with that first.
Dini?
So no two homeless situations are the same. And there's some homeless people who have fallen on hard times, and if you give them housing, they'll bounce back. One of them is working for me right now in my campaign, Anthony Bennett. But then there are homeless people who don't know right from wrong. Their minds just don't work right. And I think our streets and our community is not a place where we can help them. I think they need to be in a hospital where they can get care that they need. If they hang out in our parks, on our streets, on our railings, I think it makes our residents very nervous. When I go door knocking, very recently I came across a family where the woman said that our ex-husband is using the proximity of her home to the shelter as a reason to get custody of the kids. Because one day when her young daughter was walking, a homeless person tried to chase her. I don't know how to solve that problem. All I know is if today we were
30
building
seconds.
our city from scratch, would we put a shelter in the middle of 4 schools and the park? I have all the compassion the next person does, but at the same time, looking at what happened in North Carolina,
15
looking
seconds.
at what happened in the subway stations in New York City, I think we got to do something. With New York clamping down on its homelessness, we become the overflow city. Let's not lose control over it.
Michael?
As mayor, this solution starts with dignity and respect for those who are homeless. The first thing I would do is start the relocation process to move our homeless shelter to the northwest side of Hoboken, where we'll utilize a city-owned asset. Currently, those that are housed in our homeless shelter are sleeping on mats in a grand room. We rebuild that shelter that gives them mental health facilities within that shelter. drug and alcohol programs, job training, and much, much more. This also goes to the housing issue in the city of Hoboken. While we're talking about our Hoboken Housing Authority redevelopment, we should be talking about how we transition those who are homeless currently into low-income housing, and then eventually into middle-income housing, and then eventually back up on their feet and have the ability to go out into the workforce.
30 seconds.
As I sat on the Hoboken Housing Authority, I also secured 18 VASH vouchers for veterans who are homeless. We need to not forget our veteran population. We need to not forget our senior population.
15
We
seconds.
need to not forget those with disabilities. This all comes into one big grand plan. And finally, we need to support our local law enforcement so that we educate them and making sure they know exactly how to deal with this population so we can
Your
get them to
time
the
is up.
services that they need.
Thank you. Ruben?
Thank you. The current administration's solution to the homelessness issue was putting orange parking meters on Washington Street, hoping people would donate to that. When people were donating to that, they thought they were paying their parking meters on Washington Street. My solution to the problem, when a budget issue came up, was to add 2 social workers to the city of Hoboken. And that was the first time that we did that, to try to connect those services with the city, with the library social workers, and county and other state agencies. But however, right now, there's still a disconnection with those dots. And as mayor, I will make sure that all of those dots get connected, because we don't know what we don't know. And what I mean by that, the homeless individuals don't know what services are out there. The county doesn't know what individuals we have that need the services. So we need to connect all of those dots at all of our level agencies. And that takes work, and that takes time, and that takes effort. And we're willing to put all those efforts in and all the time in to try and make sure that all the services are rendered and people are receiving the necessary services as they move forward from homelessness and trying to find that transition housing. Secondly, we know there's a public safety issue with regards to the area immediately around the homeless shelter. We'll have to utilize our community development block grant funding
15
to try and
seconds.
make sure that the homeless shelter applies for that, and we can get them the security that they need for the homeless shelter and the area around the homeless shelter as well. Because unfortunately, it is causing many issues, but that's probably the best way to secure it at this time presently, and that
Your
won't
time is
overburden our
up.
police force.
Your time
Thank you.
is up.
Thank you.
So Tiffanie, if you read the headlines, it looks like there could be real personal animosity among a lot of our elected officials or appointed officials. There's also a good likelihood in this election with so many candidates that there will be a divided government with the mayor and council members coming from different points of view. How do you collaborate? How do you work together? How do you kind of transcend some of what seems like personal issues into good governance?
Sure. So, I mean, we've had for the last 8 years a mayor who's run the city like a campaign and has just run the city with a policy of division, right? Where Ruben mentioned this earlier that, you know, if you weren't on Team Bala, you were not going to be able to get any legislation passed. They would block it, and that's just not good governance. Nothing about it. To me, we actually, once that is out, I don't think we're going to have a divided council. I think we're going to have, if I'm mayor, hopefully, to me, I just am going to celebrate whatever the best idea is from whatever the source is. I don't really care. Like, if you have a residents first approach and a Hoboken first approach, then you want to share all good ideas and give credit where it's due. And that's just the way I've always been as a manager, as an executive, et cetera. I'm personally committed to working closely with the city council. I'm going to go to every single council meeting. I'm going to have, you know, a caucus a
30
couple days
seconds.
before the council meeting to walk through every single issue. I'm going to meet with every single council member on every big issue and do what we can to work collaboratively and get the best outcome all the time, and just leave politics aside. I have no political
15
agenda.
seconds.
My agenda is all policy. The entire Team Tiffanie agenda is just a policy forward, not a politics forward. So,
Patricia.
Could you repeat the question, so I want to make sure.
Sure, I was just saying, if you read the headlines, it seems like there's,
Headlines only in Hoboken.
just like, you know, about Hoboken, that many of the elected officials have personal animosity or just don't get along. And so the question is, with like a likelihood of having council members from various teams and a mayor from a different team. How do you collaborate? How do you work together?
Easy. I was the head of those headlines, guys. I want you to know that I am not in the election to spoil the election. My attention was on running for council at large so I can help the whole community at large like I do anyway, okay? I was bamboozled. I wind up running for mayor, and I'm being approached in the street saying, well, you in the race to mess up the election. With that being said, guys, y'all know I'm one of the nicest persons in the world, but I became the enemy of Hoboken, which I'm not intimidated by. So when you have confidence and honesty and a good heart and enjoy what you're doing, I'm not a spoiler, okay? And that's what the plan was. But I'm gonna pray that whoever the person is, the perpetrator, it backfires. I'm asking you guys to support me for a reason. And they will not. I went to every last one of my opponents and asked them to run me on a ticket at council at large, and they refused to. In spite of me, 30 years, bringing ideas, advocating, going to court, helping people eat. I do this. I go to zoning, planning, every committee there is. Neither one of them, Ruben, Michael, Tiffanie, not you, I'm sorry, I just met you. None of them, none of them gave me that opportunity. But you know what? They don't validate who Pat Waiters is. I'm for the people, always have been, always will be. I am for the residents of Hoboken. We all have the same issues. The elite, the poor, the rich, we live here together. Thank you.
Now, since you guys are coming following, can we count that as part of the rebuttal when you speak?
Just go.
Okay, so Dini.
Right. One of my favorite TV shows is called The Office, Dunder Mifflin. And their slogan is selling limitless paper in a paperless world. And when I hear talk about collaboration from this council, I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. When I go to council meetings, many a times I get up and leave because I just can't watch it anymore. It is chronic dysfunction. Many of them have weaponized our legal system to go after their opponents. When I worked in Trenton, one of the ways people knew about Hoboken was because the AG's office would constantly get demands from Hoboken Council about investigations. I doubt 57 years of collective time they have spent together, I don't see them working together. What I'm offering is a clean slate. My 3 slate members,
30 seconds.
Nick, Kim, and Shashi, have never run before. We're not politicians. We have no baggage. We just bring professionalism to this job. We're a team of professionals. We all have private sector jobs. We've worked in public sector.
15 seconds.
And that's what we bring. There will be no baggage when we get to City Hall.
Michael.
No mayor has ever gotten me elected to office. I've always been elected as an independent candidate, and I've always only served the residents in the city of Hoboken. I have 20-plus years of experience across 4 administrations, 4 different mayors, and I've had a successful career getting things done for the residents of the city of Hoboken. This is really easy for me. Every one of my council colleagues, I love every one of them. We may disagree on things. We may have a different approach on things. But at the end of the day, I put the residents first, and I advocate for that position. If my colleagues disagree with me, so be it. I've been on many, many sides of an issue at different points. We got things done together. We've disagreed on things. You win some votes, you lose some votes. That's the way government works.
30 seconds.
At the end of the day, I will continue down that path as mayor to make sure the council continues to work together so that we can move an agenda forward that is based on the needs of our residents, not on the needs of any individual council
15
person.
seconds.
Thank you, Ruben.
Thank you very much. I think time and time again, I've proven that I could work with anyone. And I think that my current council colleagues, past council colleagues, whenever they'd had an idea and they wanted to get something across the finish line, most of them reached out to me to try, because I had a collaborative relationship with many members of the city council, well, for or against. I think having healthy debate at council meetings is actually good for Hoboken. because a lot of times it helps us get through the bad things that may be in the legislation and get us to a better place. Sometimes the longer things takes is a better outcome for the residents of Hoboken, a lot of times. And I think we may disagree. It may look like dysfunction to a lot of you, but if we meet in committee meetings once every 2 weeks. We have healthy conversations in those committee meetings. We say how we feel in those committee meetings, where I'm for or against a program or a policy initiative. So I think we have to work collaboratively. You may not all see it on a daily basis. We may disagree with each other from time and time again, but I think ultimately I have an open door policy no matter what. I am egoless. I could care less. I do not care about do not caring. My job is to deliver positive outcomes for the residents of Hoboken. Or if it's my idea or somebody else's idea, I will champion that idea if it's good outcome for all of you sitting out there tonight. Thank you.
Emily.
So part of my hesitation ever getting involved in Hoboken politics was because it's basically blood sport. And sometimes you see that at council meetings. And when I first got elected, what I would do was to picture my daughters sitting in the front row of that room with us, because it kept me accountable to the things that I was going to talk about, and to fight for my position in a way that was true to the merits of my argument without attacking anyone else. I think too often we mistake putting out press releases and issuing statements about disagreements as representing action. I'm a person of action. From the beginning, I didn't have the ability necessarily to move forward with things in the council. There were often motions to table before I even was able to put my legislation on the agenda. It was frustrating. So I got to work doing other things like constituent services and being much more involved in being responsive to residents. And that's worked well for me because it's kept me in touch with the larger community. I think the larger community wants to see all of us collaborate and to get along in the spirit of this community. So what would I do as mayor? I would make sure to be very open in my communications and be transparent. I would hold regular town hall meetings to meet with all of you and talk about the things you care about, and then to meet regularly with the council as well. That sort of communication and working across the aisle, so to speak, keeps everybody honest because it gives you the opportunity to always air any grievances in a constructive way.
Tiff, is that it? Tiffany?
I think I started.
You started, right.
You did, all right. So that concludes our questionings for tonight. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and by random draw, we'll begin with Ruben Ramos.
Thank you again for our sponsors for hosting us tonight. Hoboken is an incredible city, but too often City Hall has lost sight of the basics, the things that affect our daily lives. That's why my campaign is about going back to basics. Safer streets, stronger public safety, cleaner neighborhoods, and better quality of life. Keeping Hoboken affordable for working families, upgrading our infrastructure, and giving our kids, families, and seniors more recreational opportunities. I've always stood on principle, even when it wasn't the easy thing to do. During my time in the State Assembly, I pushed back against powerful party bosses when their agenda wasn't right for our community. I've shown that I won't be controlled by special interests. I'll always put Hoboken residents first. And I have a record of delivering as a councilman and in Trenton. I fought for funding for our schools, investments in our parks, improvements to our housing, and real infrastructure upgrades to protect our city from flooding and to keep our streets safe. I've worked to expand recreation for our youth and advocate for families, for fairness, and our tax dollars are spent. This election is about priorities. Do you want leadership distracted by flashy projects, or leadership focused on the fundamentals: public safety, affordability, infrastructure, and quality of life? I'm running to make Hoboken safer, stronger, and more affordable, while preserving the community spirit that makes our city so special. Together, we can get Hoboken back on track, back to basics, and back to putting residents first. I humbly ask for your vote for myself and my running mates, Laura Miani, Britta Oano, and Alfredo Velosi. Thank you very much for having me this evening.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for being here and for tuning in on the live stream. This has been a wonderful conversation about a lot of the topics that I think all of us are hearing, being out, door knocking, and being active in this community. Having worked on the city council for the last 8 years, I understand how the city works. I've been able to see up close how the administration has worked and not worked, how the council has worked and not worked. And I've been able to prove my ability to be effective, even when there have been challenges to that. I have a track record and a reputation of getting things done. I don't always have to take credit for those things because that's what this job was about for me from the beginning, to be responsive and to take care of addressing even the smallest of issues, because sometimes those are the things that are actually the most meaningful. Having worked in the federal government for the last 19 years, you often feel 10,000 feet away from feeling like you're making an impact. And from the beginning, when I got elected, one of the things that I loved most was how tangible it was and how satisfying it was to see a stop sign appear at an intersection that you were worried about, or to address someone's pothole, or to make a park more beautiful. They're small things, but they add up to the unique Hoboken experience. I'm proud to say that over the years, I have been able to move forward with policy initiatives. It was mentioned earlier, the social work team that was added to constituent services. I think that has been a real tremendous benefit to the residents. I'd like to see that expanded in the future. And I've been an avid supporter of our police department. I know we haven't had a chance to talk about that more specifically tonight, but I think public safety is something that I think about a lot for this community. Supporting the expansion of our police department, supporting fair contracts to continue to make sure that we have a very strong police department that will continue to make Hoboken safe. We are unique because we are both urban and suburban at the same time, and there's real challenges to that, and I'm ready to take those on as your mayor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm just going to start by saying that my closing statement was directed at businesses because I was told to do that. So I'm setting that aside, and I'm going to wing it. So when I ran for city council back in 2015, I didn't know anything about politics. To me, it was all about having a stop sign on 15th Street, fighting, irresponsible development and developers taking advantage of our city, and just making sure that our tax dollars, like our taxes, didn't go up. And now, as I think about I am running for mayor, it's really the same issue. I'm not running a politics agenda, I'm running a policy agenda, and at the core of that agenda is just putting residents first in every single decision that we make. If we just run the city better and we put residents at the forefront of every decision, we won't have, contractors coming to us saying they're going to shut down our main arteries, for five months, or they're not going to shut down 2 arteries at the same time. We have an opportunity. There's low-hanging fruit to just, improve our quality of life. We have a better relationship with our public safety that is better connected with our community and meets the needs of our community. But in order to do that, we need a different kind of mayor. We need a mayor that brings certain skill sets to run the city. I come from a private sector background. I was an executive. I was a CFO. I have led every conversation on our budget for the last 10 years to bring our taxes down. And I will continue to do that. We're going to eliminate wasteful spending. We're going to run a more efficient city. And we are going to ensure and improve all the services that we provide to our community. And we need a leader that thinks strategically. We have a space crisis in Hoboken. We have a population crisis in Hoboken. And we have not given any thought as to how we are going to address the real needs in our community, like a school, a rec center, additional affordable housing. And we need to think strategically, and we need a strategic mayor. So that's why I'm running, and I'm proud that my entire team's running with me.
Your time is up.
Thank you. Understanding versus undermining me. I've been doing this for years and never given the credit that I deserve. I don't need any of you to validate that, because I will continue, win or lose, I'm going to run again, and I will continue to do what I have a passion for doing. I have learned through the years, if I can't deal with them, I can't build with them. And you have to have some type of partnership and respect for each other. And again, I must respectfully say, I must disagree with all 4 of those closing statements, because they sit on the council, they know the game, and they'll tell you quick, oh, I couldn't vote for you because I didn't have the votes. Do you understand, if either of my opponents win mayor, it's not what they want. They got a ticket because you got a political boss now, and your vote got to go directly the way they say. I'm unbossed, I'm unbrought, I'll stay poor before I give myself and my integrity and reputation into the hype. It's disgusting. So when they do have them committee meetings and backdoor deals, if they don't have the vote, it's the mayor's way or the highway. Emily supported Ravi wholeheartedly 8 years, and you're going to get the same. When you have to be loyal to a crook, I tell them all the time, I'd rather eat cheese and be pleased than eat steak with a snake. And I'm serious. This is sad, but it's true. The ball is in your court, guys. If you really want change
30
and
seconds.
stop recycling mayors and recycling the same team, this ain't a gangster movie. This is a business. I'm telling you again, my name is Patricia Waiters, and there is 3,000 people in Hoboken. I want to thank you to keep faith and voting for me, whoever you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Tiffany? Tiffany, you were mentioned. Would you like, excuse me, Emily, you were mentioned. Do you want to respond? Sorry about that. Dini?
Do I have to follow that? In the same sentiment that Pat just shared with us, Hoboken is at a crossroads. We can easily go back to those days of corruption and backroom deals. In some ways, we already have. Just take a look at how much money is coming into this election and from who. Developers, unions, law firms, they're pouring money into this election because they know the reward is waiting. It's your chance to turn the page. It's your chance to give Hoboken a fresh start. I won't be beholden to anyone. I'm not taking a dollar from any of these special interests. All I want to do is serve the residents who live here today, not for some future residents who may come here and enjoy our city, but those who live here today. So if that message resonates with you, please vote for me and my team, Kim, Nick, and Shashi. Thank you.
Michael?
I've given my life to this city, and it's because of that I've gotten to meet so many people, and I understand this city. I know that all we want as residents is to feel safe, to walk on our waterfront with our friends and our family, to get to work smoothly, and enjoy the blessings that is our city. But unfortunately, so many of those things have languished in the last decade. Everything's gotten more expensive, the congestion is out of control, violent crime has honestly upticked, and it doesn't feel like we're as close as we used to be. Government shouldn't be adding to those problems. Government should be making life a little bit easier. It should help you open your business and chase your dreams. It should keep the park next door and our streets clean. And most importantly, it should keep us all safe, especially our kids. Our government should budget responsibly so that you don't spend half your paycheck on your rent and your taxes. The city needs a mayor who doesn't rubber stamp tax increases while people are at their breaking points. A mayor who actually enforces the laws we have. A mayor that leads boldly into the future, knowing that, a mayor that leads boldly into the future, knowing that that doesn't mean leaving your neighbors behind. A mayor committing to restoring middle-class prosperity by expanding housing supply. And a mayor who knows your struggle and knows how to fix it.
30 seconds.
I know I'll be that mayor, but I need your help. Vote Team Russo, Michael Russo, 1G, my phenomenal running mates, Nicole Magana, 9H, Pete Keeling, 10H, Dean Murray, 11H,
15 seconds.
and Ryan Cunningham, 7I. We plan to get to work immediately. Please visit russoforhoboken.com and especially the Team Russo 100-day plan. Thank you all tonight.
So thank you to all of our candidates for coming tonight. We appreciate your willingness to stand up and serve Hoboken.